where lagging streams sing lullabies. There blows the lily fair, the twilight streaming in her eyes, the night is on her hair. I was 4.5 years old, and we had a family friend who played violin. She was taking violin lessons, and I admired her greatly, and I saw her play, and I thought, oh, that instrument is for me. I really want to try this instrument out. And I started taking lessons, and I was pretty obsessed pretty quickly. I did classical for a long time. I started, when I was 4, and then I pretty much did it all the way through to university. I decided before going to university that I would take a more academic route. But I did continue in orchestra and choir and that kind of thing through university as well. And did some teaching and played around with it, but I didn't really take it seriously. It always had felt like, oh, this is just a hobby. People don't do this for real. I had never even been exposed to the idea of being in a band before. When you do classical music, it's very like you either join an orchestra, you teach, you maybe are in a chamber group of some sort, but the idea of doing different styles of music was not really discussed. The thing that drew me to this play is that so often there are very few female roles. In most productions, Shakespeare, for example, we always do a Shakespeare play here on Theatre on the Isle every year, but there's like 3 or 4 women's roles, and they're minimal and they're very similar often. And there's a huge population of very talented women who are actors on the island. And so I really like the idea of having a cast that is 8 women and 5 men. And they were spread out throughout here. And depending on how large your group was, we would invite you in, and you'd sit either in a smaller box if there was only 2 of you, or a larger box if there was 4 of you. We had some families, and at the front we would have people in blankets, as well as low chairs, and then the higher deck chairs would be further back here. So this was filled with audience members. They often brought blankets. It got quite cool in the evenings, and so having warm clothes, we told people that was necessary, as well as moving their chairs was necessary. So for now, I'm just mostly playing chords on it, but it's cool because it's got this little drone function you can set. So it just keeps the notes going as you do this. Yeah. So that's cool. No, no man.
That is cool. I guess something that we didn't touch upon when we were talking about your play was, I mean, what was it like having to shut down? Like, that's pretty rough.
That was very, very, very challenging. And I think because we'd gone into it knowing that that was a possibility, but we kept getting away with it. Because at any point somebody in the cast could have gotten sick and not shown up to rehearsals, and meant that we were missing someone and maybe we couldn't go ahead with it. That never happened. The rain held off on us for the majority of the time. All of these things that could have happened, it was like we were just amazed that we could get away with it. And then we did these 3 performances, and it was incredible, and we had such good response, and it was so good to being among an audience of people laughing and having a good time, and it was just a really magical thing that I was like, oh, we did it. Okay, great. Like, we've got 3 more, and like more people are going to get to see it. It's going to be awesome. And not even thinking that next weekend, like, there's something could have happened within that week, and it was, such a reality check that we can't just get away with it necessarily. Like, we need to always be vigilant that this is just the reality of today. And that's what we went into, knowing that even if we don't get to do the whole thing, we still tried our best. We still rallied and did this incredible thing. And I just have to keep focusing on the positive aspects of it, and the fact that we did do it. We did get to do 3 performances, and that's huge. And often runs for shows are only 3 performances. And that's what I think is the amazing thing about theater, is it's always in the moment. It's always the magic. And if you create that moment right then, it existed and was an amazing thing. And you don't necessarily need millions of those moments, because we did have those moments. We were very fortunate to get to that point, and we all had an incredible time. And that was really the whole point of putting this production on. So when I can think of it in that way, I'm not as disappointed about it. And maybe we'll remount it again in the spring or when this is all over and we can do a big production and more people can see it. Like, there's always the hope that that will happen, and we just have to keep going and not get too down about it. Yeah. 'Tis leaving love and light to feel the wind of longing blow from out the dark of night.